At 58, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm for me. My days were filled with the simple pleasures of home life and long, leisurely walks with my husband, Tom, who had recently retired. Our son, Danny, had grown into a man of 30, married to Clara, a woman with whom my relationship could best be described as strained. Despite the friction, I held out hope that time would mend whatever rift lay between us. It was a typical Thursday afternoon when the phone rang, slicing through the quiet hum of our home. Tom was out in the yard, probably fussing over his tomato plants, and I was knee-deep in a book, enjoying the kind of peace you only get when you've retired to the outskirts of the city. Our life was simple, the way we liked it. "Hello?" I answered, expecting it to be Tom, maybe needing a hand with something outside. "Hey, Mom, it's Danny." His voice, always a bit hurried, sounded even more so today. "Danny, what's up? Is everything okay?" I sat up, my book forgotten. Calls in the middle of the day were rare. Danny's job kept him busy, and Clara, his wife, even busier with her own things. Yeah, everything's fine. Listen, I was wondering. Clara and I are getting our place renovated, and it's turning into a bigger mess than we thought. Can we crash with you and Dad for a bit? There was a hopeful lilt in his voice, but it was rushed, almost as if he was expecting a no. I paused, considering. Our small house wasn't exactly guest-ready, especially not for an indefinite stay. But this was Danny, our son, and his need echoed in me, stirring that maternal instinct that never quite fades, no matter how old they get. Well, I don't see why not. Let me just chat with your dad, but I'm sure it'll be fine. How long are we talking about here? Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver. Just a couple of weeks, tops. I owe you one. The relief in his voice was palpable. All right, just remember, it's cozy here. You two will need to help out around the house, okay? Of course, Mom. Thanks again. We'll bring over our stuff this weekend. Hanging up, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. It had been a while since we'd had the house full. Danny moving out had left a quiet that Jack and I had grown accustomed to, filling it with walks, gardening, and the kind of togetherness that comes with having weathered many of life's storms side by side. Tom, I called out, stepping onto the porch. Danny and Clara are going to stay with us for a bit. Tom looked up from his tomatoes, wiping his brow. Oh? What's the occasion? Their apartment's a war zone, renovations gone wild. They need a place to crash. He chuckled, a deep, warm sound. Well, it'll be nice to have some extra hands around. When are they coming? This weekend. Better get the spare room ready then. And maybe stock up on coffee, you know how Danny is in the mornings. I laughed, the sound mingling with the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. I'll add it to the list. The weekend came faster than expected. Danny and Clara arrived with their belongings, a whirlwind of bags and boxes that seemed to spill into every corner of our once-ordered home. Clara, always a bit on the edge, seemed even more so, her eyes darting around as if assessing whether our humble abode was up to her standards. Thanks for letting us stay. We'll try not to be in the way, Danny said, dropping a heavy suitcase with a thud. It's no trouble, dear. You know you're always welcome here, I replied, shooting a glance at Clara, who offered a tight smile in return. Life at our house had taken a turn towards the chaotic since Danny and Clara moved in. I was doing my best, keeping the place tidy and cooking meals that could feed an army, or at least that's how it felt with 2 extra mouths to feed. Clara, on the other hand, seemed to think she was on some extended vacation, contributing nothing to the household chores. Despite only working half-days, her afternoons were spent either glued to her phone or watching TV. One day, after tripping over a pair of Clara's shoes left in the middle of the living room for what felt like the 100th time, I decided enough was enough. I found her lounging on the couch, absorbed in her phone as usual. Clara, do you think you could start picking up after yourself? Maybe even help out around the house a bit? I asked, trying to keep my voice even, though inside I was boiling. She looked up at me, her expression one of disbelief, as if I'd asked her to climb Everest in flip-flops. I'm a guest here, Linda. I shouldn't have to do chores in my husband's parents' house. That's just not how it works. I stared at her, dumbfounded by her audacity. Well, in this house, we all contribute. It's not a hotel. The conversation went nowhere. Clara simply shrugged and went back to her phone, leaving me fuming. That night, I made a decision. I cooked dinner, just for Tom and me, a silent protest against Clara's laziness. When Danny came home and saw only 2 places set at the table, his confusion quickly turned to indignation. What's this about, Mom? Why aren't there plates for me and Clara? I took a deep breath, bracing myself for the confrontation. Your wife seems to think she's staying at a 5-star hotel, where the service is included. This is a family home, Danny. We all do our part. Danny's face turned red, a mix of embarrassment and anger. That's not fair, Mom. We're guests. I shook my head, resolute. No, son. You're family, and in this family, we help each other out. You can either pitch in or find a hotel. The words hung heavy in the air. Danny stormed off to talk to Clara, and I could hear the muffled sounds of their discussion. Eventually, they both appeared in the kitchen, Clara with a look that could curdle milk. Fine, Danny said, his voice tight. We'll help out around the house. Clara didn't say a word, just nodded stiffly, her arms crossed over her chest as if she'd been asked to donate a kidney rather than wash a few dishes. After weeks of endless cleaning, cooking, and refereeing arguments between Danny and Clara, I hit my breaking point. Tom, I said one evening, we need a break. How about we book that hotel by the ocean you've always talked about? Tom, looking as worn out as I felt, didn't hesitate. Let's do it. We deserve some peace. Breaking the news to Danny and Clara didn't go as smoothly as booking the hotel had. You're going on a vacation? Danny asked, disbelief coloring his tone. Why? You're always at home. I bristled at his response, the insinuation that my days were leisurely enough as it was. Even people who stay at home need a break, Danny. Especially with the extra workload we've had. Danny's next words floored me. Instead of wasting money on a holiday, you could help us out more. We need new furniture for the apartment. I stared at him, speechless. This was the boy I'd raised, who I'd poured my heart and soul into. I can't believe you're saying this. Your father and I are going, and that's final. Our trip was a balm for our weary souls. The ocean's roar, the sunsets, long walks on the beach, all of it reminded Tom and me of the world beyond our doorstep, beyond the daily grind. Returning home, however, was like stepping into a disaster zone. Pizza boxes towered like skyscrapers on the kitchen counter, empty bottles clinked together on the floor, and a general layer of dust and disarray covered everything. It looked like a tornado had swept through, deciding to make our living room its final resting place. Danny, Clara, I called out, my voice echoing through the chaos. They emerged, looking sheepish and a bit caught off guard by our early return. Why didn't you clean up? You knew we were coming back today, I asked, struggling to keep my voice level. Clara shrugged, her indifference like a slap in the face. No one pays me to clean up around here. Tom and I exchanged glances, both of us teetering on the edge of losing our cool. This is not a hotel, and you're not guests. You're family, and this is your home as much as it is ours, Tom said, his voice firm yet controlled. Danny seemed to shrink a bit, perhaps realizing the extent of their neglect. Sorry, Mom, Dad. We'll clean it up now. But the damage was done, the disregard for our home too stark to ignore. As they scrambled to tidy up, Tom and I retreated to our room, the joy from our trip fading fast. The realization that our return to peace was temporary weighed heavily on us. Our home, our sanctuary, had been treated like a mere crash pad, and the respect we expected from our own family felt miles away. As December rolled around, the chill wasn't just in the air, it had settled right into our home, thick and palpable. Christmas, a time I'd always cherished for its warmth and togetherness, felt under threat this year. Still, I was determined to keep traditions alive, to find some joy in the season, despite the tensions. "Tom," I said, pulling out boxes of decorations from the attic, "let's make the house look festive. Maybe it'll lighten the mood around here." Tom nodded, a small smile breaking through his usual reserved demeanor. "That sounds like a great idea, love. Let's deck the halls, then." The process of decorating became a bittersweet activity. Each ornament, each strand of lights, was a memory, a reminder of Christmases past when Danny was just a boy, his eyes wide with wonder at the sight of the tree all lit up. This year, however, Danny and Clara seemed more distant than ever. When I asked if they wanted to join in, Danny shrugged. "We're actually planning to go to the mountains for Christmas, just Clara and me." The news hit me harder than expected. "Oh, I see. Well, that sounds like a lovely trip," I managed to say, my voice steady, despite the pang in my heart. Clara, who'd been silent, finally spoke up. "Yeah, we thought it'd be nice to have a change of scenery. Besides, it's not like we're missing much here, right?" Her words, sharp and dismissive, stung. I bit my tongue, focusing on the garland I was untangling rather than the growing gap between us. Determined to inject some warmth into our strained relations, I thought of a simple yet hopeful gesture. "Tom, what if we give everyone lottery tickets for Christmas? It's fun, and who knows, it might even bring us some luck." Tom, ever supportive, just nodded. "Sure, love. It's worth a try. Might lighten the mood around here." When Christmas Eve came around, I carefully wrapped the tickets in festive paper, hoping to see a spark of excitement or at least a smile from Danny and Clara. The moment of truth arrived as we sat around the living room, the air filled with the mixed scents of pine and the cinnamon from the cookies I'd baked. "Here you go, everyone. A little something for fun," I said, handing out the envelopes with a hopeful smile. Danny took his with a puzzled look, but it was Clara's reaction that left me stunned. She barely glanced at the envelope before tossing it aside with a scoff. "Lottery tickets? Really? That's what you think of giving us?" My heart sank, but I tried to keep my tone light. "It's just for a bit of fun, Clara. Everyone enjoys the thrill of possibly winning something, right?" Danny, catching on to Clara's disdain, shrugged and set his envelope on the coffee table. "Thanks, but it's not really our thing." I stood there, the festive cheer draining out of me, replaced by a heavy disappointment. Without another word, I picked up the discarded tickets. "All right then, no harm done. Tom and I will keep them. Merry Christmas, anyway." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced smiles and polite conversations, the warmth of the season lost in the chill of their indifference. Tom squeezed my hand under the table, a silent show of solidarity that spoke volumes. As they left for their trip, the house felt emptier than ever, but Tom and I decided to make the best of it. We settled in for a quiet Christmas, just the two of us, reminiscing about the past and pondering the future. "It's just us this year, Tom. Feels strange, doesn't it?" I mused, sipping my hot cocoa. Tom took my hand, his eyes soft. "It does, love. But we've got each other, and that's more than enough." Our simple celebration was a testament to our resilience, a reminder that while we couldn't control everything, we could still find happiness in the little moments, in the shared smiles and quiet nights. After the calm and reflective holiday Tom and I shared, pondering over Danny's behavior, our lives took a turn for the surreal. Discovering that the lottery tickets, dismissed and discarded by Danny and Clara, were winners felt like a bolt from the blue. We were suddenly over $500,000 richer, a windfall that left us dizzy with possibilities. My dreams of travel and Tom's longing for a new home suddenly seemed within reach. The news, however, didn't stay just between us for long. When Danny and Clara caught wind of our good fortune, the atmosphere in the house shifted palpably. "Danny, Clara, we've got some news. I began, the winning tickets in hand. Those tickets you didn't want? They won. Big time. Danny's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and something else, greed, maybe? So, when do we get our part? He asked, his tone eager, almost desperate. You said those tickets were our Christmas gifts, right? I couldn't help but feel a sting at his words, a reminder of their earlier disdain. You tossed those gifts aside, remember? You made it clear they meant nothing to you. Clara, never one to hold back, jumped in with her own demands. We need that money. I've been looking at cars, and... Stop right there. I interrupted, my patience fraying. You can't reject a gift and then claim it when it suits you. And as for the money, it's ours. We're thinking of traveling, maybe even buying a new home. And it's time you two found your own place. Your apartment's renovation has been done for ages. The conversation spiraled from there, Clara's face turning a shade of red I'd only seen on tomatoes in mid-July. She stormed off, her exit marked by the slam of a bedroom door, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. Danny, however, wasn't ready to drop it. But the apartment isn't ready. We can't move out yet. Tom and I exchanged weary glances. This wasn't the first time we'd heard that excuse. Listen, Danny, we've been more than accommodating, but it's been months. It's time you two figured things out on your own. The standoff lingered, an uncomfortable cloud over the house, until, finally, I caved. Fine. 1 more month. But that's it. Use it to get your apartment sorted. Danny nodded, relief visible in his posture, but the tension didn't dissipate. It hung between us, a reminder of the growing divide, of expectations unmet and generosity taken for granted. The evening was settling in, a soft golden light filtering through the curtains, when I noticed Clara's laptop left carelessly on the living room table. I moved to tidy up, my hand accidentally brushing against the mousepad. The screen flickered to life, revealing tabs that sent a shiver down my spine, legal advice on declaring someone legally incompetent, understanding first-line errors, and guides on claiming an inheritance. Tom, I called out, my voice a mix of disbelief and concern. He came over, and I pointed at the screen. Look at this. He squinted at the laptop, reading the open tabs, and his brow furrowed. What in the world? We don't know for sure what this means, I said, feeling a knot of worry in my stomach. But we can't just ignore it. Tom nodded, his usual calm demeanor taking on a hint of steel. We won't. Let's make sure we're protected. The decision to visit our lawyer wasn't taken lightly. We explained the situation without naming Clara directly, seeking advice on how to safeguard our assets and ensure our will reflected our wishes. The lawyer recommended updating our will to protect our estate, advice we took to heart. We made the difficult decision to exclude Danny from our will, a move that pained me deeply but felt necessary under the circumstances. Additionally, I took steps to secure our bank accounts, adding extra layers of security and setting conditions for withdrawals and transfers. It was a precautionary measure, one I hoped we'd never need, but the peace of mind it provided was invaluable. Once these protections were in place, I called Danny. My heart was heavy as I spoke, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. Danny, your father and I have decided to go on a long cruise. We need you and Clara to find your own place within a week. His response was a mix of surprise and frustration. A week? That's not a lot of time, Mom. I know, and under different circumstances, we'd offer more time. But this decision is final. It's time for all of us to move forward, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. After the call, Tom and I shared a long, silent look. The news of the upcoming cruise was a way to push Clara to take decisive action. On a crisp Saturday morning, with a plan heavy on our hearts, Tom and I decided to leave a recording device hidden in the living room. Our home, once a place of warmth and laughter, had become a stage for a plot that chilled us to the bone. With the device set, we went for a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear the storm of emotions brewing inside us. Upon our return, the aroma of dinner welcomed us, a surprise from Clara, who had never before taken the initiative to cook for us. This unexpected act of kindness left us bewildered, teetering on the edge of hope and suspicion. "Let's listen to the recording before dinner," I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. Tom nodded, his face etched with worry. In the privacy of our bedroom, we played the recording. The voices of our son and Clara filled the room, unveiling a plan so dark it felt like a punch to the gut. Clara, with her knowledge from working in a psychiatric center, detailed how they could use certain drugs to incapacitate us, with the end goal of declaring us legally incompetent and seizing control of our assets. Hearing Danny's hesitant agreement was a betrayal that cut deeper than Clara's scheming. Our own son, complicit in a plan that would rob us of our freedom and our life's work. The recording ended, and silence engulfed us, a silence heavy with the weight of shattered trust. Tom reached for my hand, his grip firm, a silent vow that we would face this together. "We can't confront them directly," I said, my mind racing. "We need to be smart, to protect ourselves and expose their plot without putting ourselves in danger." Tom agreed, his jaw set. "We'll play along for now, but we're taking steps to secure our safety and our assets. They won't know what hit them." The decision to act as if nothing had changed was one of the hardest I've ever made. To sit at the dinner table, sharing a meal Clara had prepared, knowing her intentions, required a strength I didn't know I had. We thanked her for the dinner, exchanging pleasantries while a storm raged within us. Our son, our flesh and blood, had been drawn into a scheme against us, and we were determined to find a way to reach him, to remind him of the values we had tried to instill in him. As we laid our plans, Tom and I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But together, we were resolved to navigate it with grace, to emerge not just unscathed but stronger. After the harrowing discovery and the tense days that followed, Tom and I decided to handle the situation with as much grace and caution as we could muster. We played along with Clara's plan, pretending that the effects of the supposed drugs had taken hold. The day she planned to administer the final dose, we had already set our plan into motion. That evening, as we sat down to what was supposed to be our last meal in our own home, the doorbell rang. Clara, confident in her victory, went to answer it, only to find the police on our doorstep. I had called them earlier, explaining our suspicions and the imminent danger we believed we were in. "We believe there's been an attempt to harm us," I told the officers, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Could you please analyze this tea?" Clara tried to intervene, her face a mask of panic as she reached for the kettle, but one of the officers was quicker, securing it for evidence. The investigation that followed was swift and damning. The evidence against Clara was overwhelming, leading to her conviction. While it pained me to see my family torn apart this way, the safety and well-being of Tom and I had to come first. We received a significant financial compensation, but no amount of money could repair the emotional and relational damage that had been inflicted. In the aftermath, Danny and Clara's marriage crumbled, and he moved away, starting anew in another city. Though our hearts ached for what could have been, Tom and I knew that some bridges were too charred to be crossed again. A year later, Clara reached out, claiming to be pregnant and in need of financial support. The call was a jarring reminder of the pain we had endured, but it also underscored the distance we had come. "You know that's not possible," I said firmly before ending the call and blocking her number. It was a definitive closure on a chapter of our lives we were eager to leave behind. Tom and I sold our old house, the scene of so much strife, and moved into a new home that was everything we had dreamed of. It was our sanctuary, a place where the shadows of the past could not reach us. The sale, coupled with our financial compensation, left us with more than enough to fulfill our dreams of travel and a carefree life. As we settled into our new home, we often reflected on the journey that brought us here. The trials we faced tested our resolve, our morality, and our behavior towards those we had once considered family. But in the end, we emerged stronger, with a renewed appreciation for the peace and security we had fought so hard to protect. "Here's to new beginnings," Tom said one evening, raising a glass in our new living room, the sunset painting the sky outside with hues of gold and orange. New beginnings, I echoed, the words a promise of hope, of adventures yet to come, and of the unbreakable bond that had carried us through the storm. Our story was not one of revenge or bitterness, but of resilience, of the moral courage to stand up for ourselves, and of the profound belief that moving on was not only possible but necessary for our happiness and well-being.